Lately, I've found myself watching a lot of videos on YouTube talking about how old episodic TV shows were actually better than what we have now. The so-called 10-hour movies that dominate streaming platforms. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I agree. Don't get me wrong, serialized storytelling has its place. It can be immersive, emotional, and deeply connected. But somewhere along the way, it feels like we've lost something that made classic TV, especially sci-fi TV, so special. When you go back and watch shows like Stargate or The X-Files, you realize they had a rhythm, a sense of freedom. Each episode was its own adventure. A complete story that could make you think, make you laugh, or make you question what it means to be human. You didn't need to remember what happened 3 episodes ago to enjoy it. You could just sit down, tune in, and be taken somewhere new. Today, most new sci-fi shows are built around one big mystery or ongoing plot. Miss an episode, and you're lost. Finish the season, and half the time you're left waiting 2 years for a cliffhanger to resolve. It's cinematic, sure, but is it really television anymore? There's a growing number of fans who feel nostalgic for that older format, and not just because of nostalgia. Episodic storytelling offered something that's quietly disappearing: creativity, accessibility, and the ability to tell stories that have an ending. In this video, I want to talk about why we need more episodic sci-fi shows again, and why this format might actually be better suited for science fiction than the serialized storytelling that's taken over modern TV. One of the biggest strengths of episodic science fiction is its ability to explore ideas. Each episode can be a self-contained experiment, a what-if scenario that examines technology, morality, or the human condition from a fresh angle. That's what made classic sci-fi so enduring. Every week was a new philosophical or scientific thought experiment wrapped in drama and character. Think of Stargate SG-1. One week, the crew faces a time paradox that questions causality itself. The next, they deal with the ethics of artificial intelligence or the cultural misunderstandings of first contact. That flexibility gave writers and audiences the freedom to imagine, to push boundaries without worrying about how it would fit into a season-long narrative. You didn't have to tie everything back to a central mystery or overarching villain. Instead, the story could stand alone, judged purely by the strength of its idea. And in science fiction, ideas are everything. Another reason fans miss episodic sci-fi is its accessibility. You didn't have to commit to a full season or remember every plot twist to enjoy it. You could turn on the TV, catch a random episode, and immediately understand what was going on. That simplicity made those shows inviting. Not just for dedicated fans, but for anyone curious enough to tune in. Think about Stargate SG-1 or The X-Files. Sure, they had ongoing storylines and recurring characters, but most episodes stood on their own. You could jump in during Season 5 and still have a great time. You didn't need a recap or a streaming algorithm to tell you where to start. You just needed half an hour or an hour to experience a complete story. This made older sci-fi shows feel open and welcoming, like a universe you could visit whenever you wanted. Missed a few weeks? No problem. Each new episode was a fresh doorway into that world. That's something serialized shows rarely offer. One of the most underrated strengths of episodic sci-fi is how endlessly rewatchable it is. You can return to it again and again, years later, and it still feels rewarding. That's because each episode offers a complete experience, a beginning, middle, and end. You don't need to follow a long, tangled narrative to enjoy it. You can just revisit your favorite stories whenever you feel like it. By contrast, serialized shows rarely offer that same comfort. Once you've seen a season built around one long mystery or story arc, there's little reason to go back to a single episode. Everything's too interconnected, scenes exist mainly to set up future episodes. Once the suspense is gone, the magic often is too. And episodic sci-fi doesn't have that problem. It's built on variety, not suspense. One night you might get a moral dilemma about cloning. The next, a tense exploration of an alien planet. That diversity keeps it fresh. You can dip in for a serious story, a light-hearted one, or a completely bizarre one, whatever mood you're in. Another reason fans love episodic sci-fi is that it gives room for characters and the world itself to breathe. When every episode isn't just another step in a long, serialized plot, there's more space to explore who the characters are, how they live, and what kind of universe they inhabit. Shows like Stargate often took detours from their main arcs to focus on small, personal stories or one-off adventures. These weren't fillers. They were opportunities to show different sides of the characters. You could see how a scientist behaves under pressure, how a soldier handles moral ambiguity, or how an alien struggles to understand human emotions. Those moments built connection, not through constant cliffhangers, but through familiarity. Episodic storytelling also allowed for deeper world building. Each episode could highlight a new culture, planet, or ethical dilemma without being constrained by the momentum of an ongoing plot. You got to experience the world instead of racing through it. Over time, that accumulation of small stories created a rich, believable universe, one that felt lived in and real. In contrast, many modern serialized shows tend to narrow their focus. Because everything must serve the larger arc, character moments and world details often get sacrificed for pacing. There's always a bigger mystery, a looming threat, or an emotional payoff waiting down the line, which means the quieter, more human moments get lost. It might sound ironic, but many fans believe that episodic shows actually have less filler than serialized ones. When every episode has to tell a complete story, there's no room to stretch a thin plot across 10 hours. Each episode has to justify its existence. It has to do something. That creative pressure often leads to bolder, more imaginative storytelling. Episodic sci-fi thrived on that freedom. One week could be a tense survival story on a hostile planet. The next could be a comedic body swap episode, or a quiet meditation on consciousness. Writers weren't bound to one tone or theme. They could experiment, try out wild ideas, take creative risks, or even fail spectacularly. That unpredictability was part of the fun. You never knew what kind of story you were going to get, but you knew it would be something new. Modern serialized shows, in contrast, often feel creatively boxed in. Because everything must serve a central storyline, episodes can start to blend together. Long stretches of build-up, exposition, or side quests that don't work on their own. What used to be called filler in episodic TV now quietly fills entire seasons. Viewers wait for something big to happen, but the payoff rarely justifies the slow burn. There's a growing feeling among viewers that modern television has become exhausting. Every show wants to be a 10-hour movie, demanding complete focus, emotional investment, and a weekend's worth of binge watching. What used to be relaxing entertainment now feels like a homework. This is what many fans call serialized fatigue. When you sit down to watch a serialized show, you can't just watch one episode. You have to remember what happened before, keep track of multiple storylines, and anticipate future payoffs that might not arrive for weeks or even years. That kind of storytelling can be satisfying when done right, but it also burns people out. There's always more to follow, more to catch up on. Episodic sci-fi, by contrast, offers a different kind of rhythm. You can simply drop in, enjoy a self-contained story, and walk away satisfied. There's closure, not just continuation. You don't feel pressured to keep going. You want to keep going, because each episode promises something fresh. That sense of completeness after every story makes the experience relaxing rather than draining. Fans often talk about how older shows fit naturally into their lives. You could watch one episode after work, feel like you got something meaningful, and move on. Today's serialized streaming shows often turn into homework, long, heavy narratives that you have to finish before the internet spoils the ending. For all the talk about how streaming changed television, the truth is that most people still watch TV the way they always have. In short bursts, in between everything else going on in life. And that's where episodic shows fit perfectly. They respect the viewer's time and attention span. You can watch one story, get a full experience, and step away without feeling lost or guilty for not binging more. Episodic sci-fi was built for this kind of viewing. Whether it aired once a week or you stumbled across it in reruns, you could always tune in and get a complete adventure. That flexibility made it part of people's daily rhythm. Not something you had to schedule your life around. It worked for casual viewers, for fans, and even for families watching together. Modern serialized shows, on the other hand, demand full investment. Miss a few episodes, and you're out of the loop. Take a break for a few weeks, and by the time you come back, you've forgotten who's who or what's happening. That pressure to keep up doesn't match how most people actually consume entertainment today. We live in an age of distraction, work, social obligations, and endless content choices. The last thing people need is another show that feels like an obligation. Episodic formats solve that problem. They make it easy to step in and out, to enjoy TV on your own terms, and ironically, that's what helps build long-term loyalty. When viewers don't feel pressure, they're more likely to keep coming back. Episodic TV shows also has a surprising advantage when it comes to long-term storytelling. Because each episode is self-contained, the series doesn't hinge entirely on one ongoing plot. That makes the show more resilient over time and often more consistent in quality. Fans point out that many serialized shows suffer when a season underperforms or the writers change direction. A single-week season can drag down the perception of the entire series, leaving viewers frustrated or disappointed. Episodic shows, on the other hand, can absorb those ups and downs. A weaker episode doesn't ruin the series. It's just one story among many, and the next week can bring something amazing. This structure also allows writers to build the world gradually and naturally. Recurring characters and themes appear over time, but they're not forced into a rigid, overarching plot. Small, memorable episodes accumulate into a rich, believable universe without needing constant high-stakes drama. Over a decade-long run, you can develop complex characters and intricate settings while still keeping every episode enjoyable on its own. Finally, one of the most beloved aspects of episodic sci-fi is its sense of optimism and adventure. Many fans argue that modern serialized shows have become darker, more cynical, and often weighed down by heavy political or emotional drama. Episodic series, on the other hand, embraced exploration, curiosity, and wonder. Every episode was an opportunity to embark on a new adventure, to explore a strange planet, encounter an alien culture, or confront a moral dilemma. The stakes could be high, but they were often balanced with humor, hope, or a sense of discovery. This made the universe feel alive and inviting, not just a backdrop for endless conflict or convoluted mysteries. In short, episodic sci-fi captured the spirit of adventure in a way that serialized shows often struggle to match. It reminded viewers that science fiction isn't just about conflict. It's about imagination, exploration, and the joy of discovering the unknown. That sense of optimism, wonder, and possibility is exactly what many fans feel is missing from today's TV landscape. In the end, episodic sci-fi isn't just nostalgia. It's a storytelling format that encourages creativity, exploration, and accessibility. Each episode can stand on its own, letting us dive into new ideas, explore rich worlds, and connect with characters without feeling lost or overwhelmed. It's rewatchable, welcoming to new viewers, and full of adventure and optimism, qualities that are harder to find in today's serialized shows. But what do I know? I'm just some random YouTube guy. So that's it. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.